Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas. Decided to pull a kind of late night Thursday stream, nothing too formal, just keep it casual. I got some special guests hopping on the stream tonight. I feel like there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I have in the header comic book market talk, or what did I put? Comic book talk. Basically as general as it can be, but there are a lot of news stories I feel like we got to touch on. We can kind of get into it. We can talk a little bit about, NYCC. I'm hoping to have, we got, some guests coming on right now, but I have another guest I think that might make it on a little later in the show who was at New York City Comic Con. And I want to get his perspective on what he saw out there, specifically in the market stuff. I mean, there's obviously a lot of different news and drama that we can talk about. We can definitely talk about, some of the, Peach MOMOKO stuff that a lot of people have been discussing, some of the other sort of, I guess, fights that are going at Comic Cons. I didn't know that Comic Cons were turning into UFC events, but apparently they are. So we can talk about that stuff, but I'm also more interested a little bit in like the market talk. And I got some good guests to discuss those things with today. We can also kind of get into some other news and rumors and stuff. We can do some Q&A. We're just hanging out here, and we can, what else do we want to talk about? I got some heritage auctions I want to talk about. I got like some other rumor stuff. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll check in with the chat, see how everyone's doing there. Oh, also, if you can, hit that like button, right? Is that what people do? Hit that like button. Did you guys know that I have a new promo code in my description? A very new promo code for Torpedo Comics. If you guys ever want to go to Torpedo Comics, you can use their promo code, get 10% off. Do all that stuff. All right, let's check in with the chat here. We got C Fractals here for early. What's going on, man? Hello, chat. Hello, C Fractals. Good to see you, man. Rowdy Scarlet. Hey there. How's it going, Rowdy? We got Wayne in the building. We got Nowhere Bound in the building. We got Carson in the building. We got Landlord Shy in the building. Mrs. Horsecock Express in the building. What up, nerd? Every time I just read your name, man, it's just I feel, I feel a certain way every time I have to read it out loud. We got Patrick in the building. She-Hulk is one of the best parts of Phase 4. Fight me. Well, look, if you like it, you like it. That's totally fine. Like, people can feel any which way they want about the show. We can talk about it. We may not talk about it. I don't know if the people I'm with right now have seen it yet. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of you guys in the chat that haven't seen it yet. So probably we don't want to discuss spoilers. But we can see. Maybe we'll save it for the end of the show. And then people who don't want to hear spoilers and stuff, we can kind of go from there. But I got people in the background. I feel like we should just bring them on. Some special guests joining the stream today. We got the return of Chris, Vancouver Comic Junkie. We got, of course, Drew, Como Comic Books in the house. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Not bad.
Hey, how are you?
We look related, Drew.
Well, I just feel we're genetically gifted. Happens to the best of us.
Round pieces.
It's like twins, like peas in a pod.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for hopping in the stream. I just decided to fire up the camera and have some conversations. Before we kind of dig into that, I mean, Drew, what's going on in your world? I'm taking you away from making comic book videos here. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm really skilled at procrastinating, and I only did like half my script last night. So I've got like a whole other half of a script to write, and it's not like it's my big quarterly comics to invest in video coming up this weekend that's important and gets the most views of any video I do for the next couple months. So no big deal.
It's not like everyone in this chat kind of relies on your picks, here. So let's make sure that you get to bed early so that you can get that video out for us.
It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
And Chris, what's going on with you? What's new in your world? What kind of CGC stuff are you
drawing storyboards for work, and I might even draw while I'm here. I have a huge deadline for tomorrow morning, so I am.
Oh wow! Okay,
that's what I'm
right.
Get to it.
Yeah.
Well, again, if you guys don't know, Vancouver Comic Junkie and Como Comics, they got their own YouTube channels. I put their links in the description. So definitely go sub them up. I think I did. Well, I will make sure I did if I didn't. But I kind of feel like we got to talk. We got to come out of the gate swinging. All right, we got to talk a little bit about what's going on with NYCC here. I mean, Drew, we were talking a little bit about this on Instagram.
Yes, sir.
Chris, you mentioned you're a little bit not caught up to date
at all.
necessarily.
No, I don't know
what
any of this
happened
Pete
here.
MOMOKO stuff.
But obviously, I know you guys in the chat. I'm sure you've heard it on other shows, or you've been having other streams discuss it. But of course, it feels like every time we go to a comic book convention at this point in 2022, there's just controversy going on here. And we had this Peach MOMOKO thing happen, and TLDR, I not to beat the dead horse, but basically Peach MOMOKO was at the con doing the artist thing, and she graciously was giving out 10 free signatures to anybody that wanted that, and doing like super cheap remarks. Wow. And she was basically just offering this. And anytime you want to extend some goodwill out to the community, I mean, people obviously are going to take advantage of it, especially since they are free. And apparently the line was massive. The rush to get there at 10 a.m. on Thursday was crazy. There was controversy of like the people who obviously have vendor badges who are there before the doors open are already in line, and then there's issues there, and there's people that are fighting for it. And apparently there was words exchange, a fight broke out. It was crazy. It was hectic. And she had to shut it down. Because she was just like, this is ridiculous. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I got all the right details, Drew. How do you feel about what you heard that happened?
This one's tough. I mean, at this point, I just think Reed Pop's cursed this year. Like, if they put on a show, there's going to be some sort of drama. But unlike C2E2, it's like nobody's naming names. Like, nobody's spilling the tea on this one. It's like everybody seemed like the people who know who was involved in what happened. They're like, well, I don't want to throw shade, or, it's like they're afraid Will Smith's going to walk up out of the crowd and smack him in the face if they drop somebody's name. I don't know what's going on. So I kind of have a general understanding of what's going on, but I don't really know what the hell went on. When it comes right down to it. I mean, I've got some thoughts. I've been the vendor who has to run and get in line at the front of a show, but I'm also not a jackass who's going to show up with a short box of stuff to have signed. So I can see both sides of that argument, but I don't know. I know we were just watching Bronze Age Nerd, and one of the people he had on there was just like, we're all adults, and it's kind of part of that. But I know I said I wasn't going to share this publicly, but people who maybe just came into comics, or just are still kind of starstruck by the joy of the hobby, haven't had the chance to peek behind the curtain and to really get a good view prior to this, whether it was COVID, shows were shut down, people just didn't have this exposure. But comics is not all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, it is cutthroat out there, especially when you get into the upper echelons, like the vendors and the dealers that are at NYCC level shows. It's big business, it's big money, and it's people's livelihoods. So, people, passions can run high, I guess. So,
hey, Drew, is this like an acetate gate thing though? Like, where there were people pissed off because people were getting in front of the line and doing that kind of thing, or what was the piss off for everyone?
I'm not entirely clear, and like I said, it seems like the people who know aren't sharing a lot, but it seems like this time at least there were like prearranged from what I've gathered, it seems like people were sure to at least prearrange, like, hey, is it cool if I come over and have you do some signings? They weren't just walking up to the front of the line like was alleged at C2E2. But I think the volume of what people were wanting to have done seems to be the main sticking point. And I understand it was all, I mean, Peach had really good intentions, but at a show like NYCC, if you're going to do 10 books per person, that's a day. Yeah. That's a day long line, an hour into the show, if that.
Yeah. I think, to her credit and maybe even to Marvel's oversight, it's like, you guys know when you have like certain artists that are like the Todd McFarlanes or like the Frank Millers and stuff, like they're not just like on the floor in Artist Alley. There's like a different area where you put these type of people. And, to her credit, I think at least in this sort of secondary market world, it definitely feels like her name carries a lot of weight right now. So like, I think they probably just didn't quite understand that the demand that was going to be there. And it is really crazy. I mean, and Chris, like, I don't really know obviously none of us were there. I'm just, talking about it secondhand accounts from what I've heard for other streams, and, shout out to everybody who was having them like Bronze Age and stuff. But like, I guess maybe a little bit of my understanding of some of the drama was maybe that it was a little bit reversed this time, where like, some of the people who were the vendors who had the vendor badges who were in the door beforehand maybe felt like, oh, they could get up in front. And actually Peach MOMOKO was like, no, I'd actually rather have my fans go first.
Interesting.
And then that caused like I'm a vendor, like I paid for this badge. Like, how can you tell me that I can't, I think
that's interesting.
But it's like almost like a reverse of the acetate thing where like the vendor badge didn't help you this time around.
Well, I think Mrs. Horsecock Express has the best name ever and a good comment. Market's tight, people getting even more greedy, nasty, trying to flip something at a profit. And I think that's a lot to do with it. I mean, people are getting crazy out there.
It definitely feels that way. And I mean, look, I'm fortunate. I think a lot of you guys are, we have the YouTube channel, we do it for fun here and everything. And Drew, I think you even do it, some shows yourself and stuff, but like, it isn't your primary business. And I got to say, like, if working in comics is a full-time thing for you, it's gotta be hard. And like, if it's feast or famine, I mean, people are animals, it's like, this is the like beyond the greed. If it's like your livelihood, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just going to create the not happiest of existences. I think if you have to like go to these shows and get this hustle on.
I think we're in a weird place right now because the market, as we all know, has changed in the last 6 months. It's just the way it is. Everything's changed because COVID's done and everyone's not sitting behind their computer and buying like crazy. But saying that, it's the market's really good. If you really look at the prices and things comparatively to before COVID, like we're doing just fine. We have more collectors than ever. It's really nice. It's just not, you're just not like buying a book like on a Tuesday and then flipping it for 200% profit the next day, like it was in March,
Right.
And people, I just think got too used to that. I hope most of those people just leave the hobby, like all the people that jumped in. So Dan.
What up, Dan? Yeah. That's it.
He is everywhere, guys. He's the watcher of comic book YouTube.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
DDT is the heart and soul for sure. I think you're right though. I mean, like it is like, it does feel like just people, the easy money has been made, right?
Yeah. They were on NFTs 2 years ago.
The instant flip and stuff. And you're right though, the market still does move. Like it still is crazy. Like Frogman will show up and Frogman books will sell. Like, it still is that. It's just, it just is a little bit different.
Market's all right. I mean, there's these, Scar just became a
some
thing.
books. Yeah. Apparently those will sell. We can pull up some interesting stuff on that one.
Yeah.
But it is, I don't know. It is crazy. And it does feel like it all ties, back into like, I think the variant cover craze and some of the stuff and the quick pops and quick flips. And because everyone knows like it is such fast money too, where you gotta be the first. Like if you go get those Peach books signed, you gotta be the first one on eBay to
how tiring is that? It's so tiring to me to be that. Man. It must be terrible for a dealer to do that as their main income.
Yeah. Especially if you're going show to show and it's like, this is like the whole thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, how much? I mean, is it a lot of money? Is it like, is it worth the time and the effort?
I guess if you're doing it 100 times in a week and some of these people are doing that, so why not? Yeah. Sure.
Well, I mean, like I was at C2E2, right? So the whole Whatnot Wednesday crowd was there, and for as much drama as they got, however much it was deserved or whatnot, well, Sorry, that was bad. Here's what I saw. Like, if you can unplug all the drama and the bullshit that came out of that weekend, those guys were up running live sales when I woke up in the morning, and they were still running live sales when I went to bed at night, all weekend long.
Wow.
Right.
And they were partying like rock stars in the middle of it. Like, you know, they had to been going on 3-4 hours sleep max, and you know, up there just putting on a show. Yeah, they had their breaks, they hit the floor from time to time, but I wouldn't envy them. I think I definitely had more fun that weekend than they did, even without all the hoopla that came out of it. So
yeah. And I mean, look, again, it is a business for a lot of people, and they got to do what they got to do, and you know, they got to work. And but to your point, like when I go to the shows, like that's just you know, I don't know if I myself would want to cultivate my hobby around that side of things. It just sounds not very fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it is pretty crazy. I mean, we don't have to belabor on it, but it does feel like every single show, every single con is going to drum up new issues and new drama and all of this stuff. And it's just, I mean, do you feel like we're headed towards that? Like, is this because of like the whole social media thing? Like there's always going to be conversations. And now there's like this whole ecosystem of even us right now on YouTube, like talking about this stuff and making it a bigger thing than it is. And it just, is this like where we're at?
You're asking if we're part of the problem?
Well, not even part of the problem, but it just feels like, is every single comic book show now going to create controversy, no matter what level it is?
In fact, I think there's people that would like it too. It just is more promotion.
Yeah. I think you've got enough people that are onto the game or think they are. So even things that are actually innocent, when they're viewed through the lens of, okay, these people are always up to something, they're going to find something that, you know, from the outside looking in looks suspicious or questionable or whatever. And then it just feeds the beast.
Yeah. Well, shout out to an NYCC survivor, a veteran of the con himself, Rob from Neo Cards and Comics. Rob, how's it going, man? Thanks so much for hopping on the channel.
What's up, boys?
Hey, man.
Good evening, sir.
Well, Rob, you were there. You were boots on the ground at NYCC. How was your experience? How do you know anything about this Peach MOMOKO thing? Have you heard rumblings about this? We're just kind of talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw like some of the post videos that have come out the last couple of days. So I think, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this went down on Saturday. Is that correct?
I think that
so.
Well, Thursday might have been some of the issue because of the fact that she basically canceled her signings, and Thursday was like when it opened, and then I think there were some other private signings. I don't know. You know what? I don't know.
So I didn't spend much time on Artist Alley at all, so I did not even know or was aware that this was going on until after I actually left the convention. I saw, I think she made, was it Saturday? She made the IG post about like going to Midtown to sign or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened, because Saturday was the day my wife and I like were tourists in the city and didn't actually go to the. We went to the convention most of the day Thursday and all day Friday. And Saturday was our touristy day, and then Sunday we came home. So I was there for the first.
Right. So you have an alibi that you weren't the one throwing punches.
Correct.
Is there actually punches being thrown?
I bought Peach books, but I did not get them.
Oh, nice. There you go. The Carnage one. I you know, I don't want to speak at it because I wasn't there, but my understanding is that the account was that at least, if not punches were thrown, there was physical like shoving and things like that.
Wow.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. Drew, are you going
to nerd on nerd hate
something?
Oh, I was just going to completely derail the conversation. Ask Neo what kind of touristy things he did in New York. So I've been there once, and I had a great time.
Ate a bunch of pizza. We did like the 9/11 tour at World Trade Center, Central Park, Times Square, just the normal high
points.
Basically, I'm here. We have about 16 hours in the city across 3 days. Like, let's just knock off as many of the big things as we possibly can.
For sure.
So
right on.
Well,
cool city.
I gotta say, because Neo, you were there. You know, I in case you guys hadn't followed Rob on Instagram. Like you had one video that was hilarious that was talking about the prices at cons, and I wanted to get your thoughts. From a firsthand account, what was the market like at NYCC as far as like comic books were concerned? Even actually, I don't know if there were Marvel cards there as well, but like I'd love to hear what your thoughts are generally of like what you kind of saw for the wall books and whatnot.
Marvel card wise, there wasn't really much of a presence. I mean, the CGC booth had a lot of stuff. I did a box break, a Spider-Man medal in the CGC booth with some of their team. But
Right.
like in regards to like dealers having singles out in cases or something like that, like there really wasn't much of that. But CGC definitely had a presence since they just started recently grading Marvel cards. On the comic side of things, and I need to couch this because I am not one that sits and like digs through long boxes of Rob books. Like I only buy CGC graded stuff typically, other than
Right.
I bought the con exclusive covers, but like, so I'm only usually looking at CGC graded books. So when I'm talking about pricing, I'm strictly talking about basically wall books, as you put it. And the other thing that I should mention is that I did not attend this convention to buy per se. I definitely had cash on me, and if I ran into something that I wanted or that I thought was a good deal, I 100% would have pulled the trigger on it. But it was not my primary purpose for being there. That being said, most things, at least to my eye, seemed high priced. I kind of mentioned this in my recap video. My trick is that I pick out like 3 books that I know that like every dealer is going to have, and it's usually ASM 50, ASM 129, and then like a random X-Men key. And I just kind of know like what those sell for in various grades. And that's like let me glance at the wall and see how this dealer is priced. And then I know whether or not it's even worth the time.
Yeah, that's a
for
good
the
strategy.
most part,
That really
it seemed
is a
like
good
prices
strategy.
were high.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because I felt like talking about that, and what you were describing and just there's always funny chatter and comments and stuff about how like all dealer prices are always ridiculous. And talking about the market where we're at now, I pulled up the index that I have going on. What's your, maybe Drew, as someone who's like sells, I don't know when the last sale, like show you set up at is.
It was April, I think is when Planet was.
Okay. So April was still pretty hot.
Mhm.
In terms of like the market. Like if you were going to set up at a show right now and you had certain books, like I don't know if you have equity in like everything that you have on your wall, but like
Pretty
as
much.
a dealer, okay. Well, let's say you didn't. As a dealer, like what would your thought be right now? Like what's the idea behind, as Rob put it, like there's 2 shows going on. There's the show where people sell books, and then there's the show where people just have pretty images on a wall and stand in front of it all day.
Yeah, I usually try and at a minimum get through my wall books. Like my box stock, I'll probably go through once, maybe twice a year, depending on how many shows I have. Like I've got a show coming up at the end of the month. It's a little American Legion Hall show. I'm gonna like custom build 9 long boxes to take with me, and I've got this little bitty rack. I can fit no more than 60 wall books. It's literally a tabletop magazine rack. So I'll go through all that just to kind of update it. But when I update those prices, I'm going to put them around F&V, and I haggle a little bit, but honestly, the kind of stuff I deal in, it's not the kind of stuff that people can just go out to their local comic shop and buy. Like around here, you walk in and you're looking for early bronze and silver age stuff. You're not going to find much of that at comic shows. You walk up to my table, I'm going to have long boxes of it.
Right.
So I don't have, and also as you mentioned before, it's not me selling a book at a show is not the difference between me having food on the table the next day or not. So I can afford to be a little bit stingier, I guess, than these guys do. But we're also back into an environment where the prices aren't just moving a single direction. So they're more fluid. It's a little bit more like it used to be, where I've got some wiggle room. I've got some give and take, because ultimately we're still up a bit. I mean, there's some things I bought while everything was, through the roof, but for the most part, I'm not going to get hurt on one book or two books. I'm still making money. So there is some wiggle room in there. And I think it's just right now is the time where people who are skilled in negotiation and like actual negotiation, not just being an asshole and asking for, stupid low prices, but actually being able to do the dance and have the conversation, they're going to come out smelling like a rose. But people who maybe aren't comfortable with doing that or aren't as talented as that are hopefully at least going to find vendors that are going to be moving with the market, or they'll just walk past them and find somebody who will. Because I know at C2E2, it seemed like everybody was still clutching the pearl of high prices and they weren't going to come off of that. So I feel like, based off the reports I've seen, that even some of the bigger dealers are starting to finally have to acknowledge the fact that the world's changed in the last 5 or 6 months and accept the reality of where we're at versus where we were.
Yeah, I kind of feel that too. I mean, there's all like a bunch of dealers that like we all know that maybe are always a little on the high side. And when I start to see those dealers actually starting to slash, it's like, oh, okay, like people are actually capitulating a little bit.
Yeah, there's a convenience fee with some of those big name dealers. Like if you want something, they probably have it and they probably had to pay to get it. But if you want it, there it is.
Well, what's your thoughts, Chris, on comics right now? Are you buying? Are you like,
I'm actually buying.
Wait and see.
I've been buying, but me, I'm not buying a lot of CGC stuff, but saying that I've been best offering on eBay and getting some great stuff.
Right.
Generally it's, obviously there are a lot of people I'm noticing are accepting offers that they wouldn't have accepted 6 months ago. And I think people's credit cards are at the end of their
limits.
Yeah. So I'd hate to admit that I'm taking advantage of situations like that, but I guess I am. And it's getting me a couple cool books. So, but no, I'm not like buying like I was, but I am buying. It's always good to buy when things are down anyway. So I sold last year, so I had a bit of a war chest, but I'm trying to get a bit of more of a war chest because I'm buying into, I'm buying VHS stuff, but also I'd like to buy some big keys next year because I have a sneaking suspicion next year is going to be terrible. It's just going to be a terrible year economically.
Well, that's my feeling. I mean, I have the index that I've always been putting together and stuff, and kind of where we're at. We're basically kind of falling back into the trend line. At least Silver Age is there. I think bronze has to fall a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And my thought is like, okay, here's my two scenarios. Either by top of next year, we're kind of stable and moving back up, or there's like a moment of despair where people actually start to sell and things are actually undervalued for like a year, which, great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And in that instance, then like maybe I'll make a play for AF-15 or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But Rob, what's your feeling right now with comics and where's the sports card market at? Is the sports card market on fire? Like, is comics doing better? Like, what's going on in the other collectible?
No, I mean, typically what I've found over the last 3 years since I kind of entered both spaces is that the sports card market you guys tend to follow us. Like when the market spiked for you guys, the market had already spiked for like sports cards were near their peak right before comics went nuts at what was that, like March, April, May of 2021. Like right before that happened, cards were already at their peak. And I remember that's when I was like, I'm going to stop buying sports cards and go buy comic books because they have not gone purely nuclear yet.
Right.
And then same thing, the reverse happened. Like sports cards started to tank pretty quickly and comic books were still holding steady. And then like a couple months later, comic books started crashing down. Right now, sports card market's not in the best space. It's the same thing that you're seeing, that I touched on in that little reel that I put up about, there's two shows, people that want to do at current prices versus the ones still trying to sell at older prices. And if you're a buyer right now, you have a ton of power. If you were a buyer at a card show or basically any collectible market, if you're a buyer and you have cash in hand, right now you have the power because a lot of people trading is much more common in cards than I think comics. but a lot of people in cards right now are wanting to trade and not. They still want to be involved, but they don't want to inject cash into the market.
Right.
So they're more than willing to take like, you know, a couple cards and move them into another couple cards and maybe kick in like a little bit of cash, but they don't want to buy a $2,000 card right now. They'll trade for a $2,000 card. And I think the same thing's true in comics. If you have cash and you're willing to spend big money, you have the power. So I would not rush into any deal right now. I would be patient and wait out auctions, or, you know, from the show side of things, like it's cool to go to the show and walk the floor or whatever. But honestly, 9 times out of 10, I get better deals on Instagram from Grails and Elite and some of the other ones than I do on any show or eBay or Comic Link. You know, Comic Link auctions, I think, are pretty. Someone in chat mentioned that. Basically, any auction format right now, or like the bigger IG sellers that are like consigners, you can get pretty good deals right now. But, you know, if you have cash and you're willing to spend, you definitely have the edge right now, because there are less and less people looking to do that, to inject actual cash into this market. Because I don't think, you know, it's impossible to guess the bottom, but most people are probably saying we probably still have another good, you know, 12 to 16 months of pain from a general world economy standpoint. So
yeah, it definitely seems like the auctions for sure are always going to be the best, you know, floor value to get in on. But I like what you said about the whole trading aspect. Like part of the reasons why, I recently did 2 trades of my Avengers 1 twice. And part of it is, you know, somebody was asking me like, oh, why don't you just sell it and then buy it? And it's like, to me, it's not that I can't do it that way. It's just a matter of like, well, it's less capital that I got to actually put into this. And since everything is uncertain, it's like, I feel just more comfortable doing it that way. And the other thing too is like, you know, it's all relative. Like if everything goes down, like, well, the value of my Avengers 1 that I traded away was going to go down anyways too, proportionally.
Yeah,
so
it's also
with
the tax changes and stuff too. It's less hassle with that, of having to like, okay, I sold it, but then I spent the money to buy another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then to your point, yeah, taxes and all that stuff, and then there's the convenience of it if you can do it in person at a show, then it's like, cool. I get to like have it definitely
seems, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know better. It seems like trading is less prevalent in comics. Not that it doesn't happen, but it's not. You know, if I go to a card show, I'm bringing like, you know, 30 cards with me, and I could execute 15 trades over the course of 2 days. That seems like it would be an anomaly in the comic space.
I've been seeing more of it lately in shows. I have some friends that just show up at every. I think it is. I think people just have less cash, and they're just. It's the only way to make deals now.
I've been striking out all over the place on trades.
Have you?
Oh man, yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. People, because you know, everybody, at least from the dealer perspective, like, you know, they want to win the trade, so it's like they just have to be so stingy with it. But you know, it's funny that you talked about the whole like auction thing, because one thing that Ryan from Automatic Comics, we always keep talking about this stuff, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. I mean, obviously, books are always going to be up for sale, right? No matter what the market is, there's going to be books hitting auctions.
There's that many at Heritage right now.
So those are recent sales.
Those are recent sales.
These are all recent sales. But one of the things I wanted to point out, what Ryan and I were talking about, was we were just blown away how like in September and October, it just felt like, why is there like 4 AF-15s every single auction
every week?
And it felt like, well, this is just putting yourself in the seller's shoes. It's like, obviously it's like, okay, hot market. I missed my chance to sell back in April. Who knows where it's going now? Let me liquefy. I'm already so much above because I've owned this for 10 years, you know, or whatever the case is. And I feel like, do you think that there will be a time when eventually the new like collectors have like inherited a lot of these bigger keys, and like we're going to see that supply that is getting turned over dry up a little bit more? Or do you think like, no, the world just continues to move and every week there's just going to be
like I said before, like everyone's at their credit limit right now. Not everyone, but a lot of people. But I think a lot of these big boy books got bought on credit over COVID. Personally, I don't think it was just all rich, savvy investors. It was just guys jumping on things, and now they're like, shit, I got to pay off my loan. And I think a lot of them are getting sold that way. That's why they're getting like, why would you sell that right now?
You know, but you
insane.
look at that recent sale on a 3.5, even the low
Yeah,
is still
26.
10% above. There's one that sold for 22. I thought I saw there last month or so.
Right. It's still above, and that kind of puts it back in a trend. Actually, this sale was like, because the index I've been putting together, I do not have like, say, your top 6 or 7 keys in it. Like it doesn't include AF15 and FF1 and
the dollar amount would really
FF5.
screw your.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
like a separate mega key.
Right. So I wasn't certain based on that. I wasn't actually certain if these mega keys would follow the same correction. Like I wasn't sure, like, oh, maybe the mega keys, people just want to hold on to them. But this recent AF15 sale does actually show like, oh no, everything is coming back in line. Doesn't matter how popular of a book you were.
I guess on the sports card side of things, the high end over the the sub few $1,000 market got hammered at the beginning part of the year. The last 3 months, the high end market has just been getting decimated.
Which tells me we're going to get decimated in comics. In
I think you're seeing it with these AF15 sales. You know what I mean? Like, because was that Ryan that had the IG post showing like a 30 or 40% drop on AF15 sales?
Yeah, he did. He
so,
did.
yeah.
It might have been this one that we're talking about. This
IG post, I could take that and replace that with pick a random $30,000 to $200,000 sports card, and the numbers would be like, oh, this dropped 30, 40, 50% from its all-time high.
Maybe I'll finally get my Jordan rookie.
What's that?
Yeah.
So maybe I'll finally get my Jordan rookie card I've always wanted.
Yeah, those will come down quite a bit. That's one that's come down quite a bit, like that was,
It's interesting too, because, we keep talking about like, you can hear it's like a 4 or 5 and you can see like just trend, right? Kind of back into line. But like, it's interesting to hear that because I think it's maybe in this coming up heritage auction or something, but there are 3 Incredible Hulk 181 9.8s in like the same auction or something like that. We were, I don't know exactly what it was. Brian and I were talking about it. It's so crazy. It's like they're not all going to go for $130,000 or whatever that.
Somebody's going to get caught holding the bag.
Yeah. So a Jordan PSA 10 86 Fleer, which is pop 322, peaked at, which this is a one-off. So, but it basically peaked at a little over $700,000.
I'm more in like the 3 or the 4 level. Like, I don't need it to be pretty. I just want to say I got one.
Yeah.
Do they have for comparison's sake of like the ultra high end, like these were going for, there's multiple sales of this in very early 2021 for almost $600,000, and now they're going for 180 to 200,000.
That's brutal.
That's really bad.
Ouch.
Well, I hope we don't see numbers like that in comics. That's insane.
I mean, to the comic perspective though, like if you go pre-boom, that card was 120,000. So like if you go back to late 2020, a PSA 10 Jordan was a low $100,000 card. So, to the same point of like when you look at the GPA graphs, 180 sucks, but right before the peak, you're still up 60,000. You know what I mean?
So it's basically the COVID gains are just not insane. They're just normal gains, like decent
slightly
gains.
Like if Swags has been talking about lining up that I like the idea of what was this Silver Age key selling for pre-boom, and then kind of like imaginary chart that line out and like has that drop hit the imaginary dotted line yet. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of seeing like, oh, okay, that's $180,000 Jordan now. That's kind of in line with probably where it would have ended up if COVID never happened. You know what I mean? We just kind of chucked along with the normal. I go up my certain percent every 6 months or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you zoom out even more, like when I bought my AF15 in 2012, it was a raw 2.0. I paid less than $4,000 for it.
Yeah, I never like zooming out that far because then it just becomes like almost fake numbers at that point.
And it's just like, we're coming back down, but there was such a massive leap from, what was it, 2013, 2014, like when the MCU really took off, like let's just call it 2014 to 2018, you know, there was this massive leap in values. I mean, I got tired of being the guy who was running around screaming the sky is going to fall because like this stuff just couldn't keep going up and going up. 5 years ago, I got tired of being that guy. So I finally just said, to hell with it. There's no ceiling. None of this makes sense. Just buy comics and make money.
Right. It's interesting though, with some of these boom and bust cycles. Well, like one with the 181, just really quickly, there's a 3 up for sale. And this is what I think is kind of interesting to look at the 9.8. It's like, you can see like, so like generally speaking, there's about 4 a year that always go for up for sale, you know? And it's like, before that, it was like 9, 8, 5, 9, 15, 13. And it's like, I think the volume is higher here because the price is just more affordable. I mean, 16 grand, even back in 2014, like that's not proportional, right? So there's going to be less sales, but I just wonder if there's people, if you will see more sales because people want to liquidate, or if you won't. I don't know. And that's something I'm interested in, with like seeing all those books going up, or the 3 of them that are like in the same auction, which even in this market, I don't know if I would sell knowing that there's 2 other in the
It
same.
could also be a matter of, hey, I think this market's got another year decline in it. I'm going to sell it now at, I don't know, make up a number.
Right.
40,000, or I don't even know what a 9.8 goes for these days. But I think I could buy it back in 9 months for 30,000. You know what I mean?
Right. Question is, sometimes I get these comments from people, and look, I could be totally wrong, but a lot of people are like, "Oh man, we're going to zero. We're going straight to zero. We're Michael Burry predictions, you know, with the stock market, like we literally dropping by over 100%. I mean, here's 181 and a 7.0, and I just look at it and it's like, look, okay, just the groupings, like what kind of numbers you see, 6 and 5s. And then all of a sudden you start to see 8s and 6.
Are we still in 181 here?
If we go to zero, we'll be eating our own children by then. It's like,
yeah. And then then you start to see 1s and 5s and 12s and 18s and 14s. And then you start to see like, you know, 33s and 4s and stuff. And then these last 2, you know, 9s and 8s and stuff. So I'm willing to buy that we can go back to here, but are we going back to here?
Well, like 2013, that lines up with the release of the Wolverine. When did Logan come out? Logan came out in 2017, which is another spike. So I think
right. So here's like the 2018 spike of Logan, right? Like,
yeah. So you've got some cultural events driving things here, which I mean, I wonder what did 2000 and 2002 look like? Isn't that when X and X2 came out?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't go back that far.
Yeah, well, 2002 is basically where we
and your population count's a hell of a lot lower then because CGC just started in what 2000 or 99 or something like that. So
right.
I have to say though, I think going forward, I think the movies aren't going to be as influential on the value of these books like they were. Kind of like what happened with I don't know if you guys remember 5 or 6 years ago, the Arrowverse would have a new character one week on the TV show Flash or Arrow or whatever. And that book would see significant gains. And then one day it just didn't, because they were introducing characters every fucking week. And it just got boring. And I'm starting to smell that happening to the DC or Disney Plus shows for Marvel and stuff. Yeah. And I think those booms aren't going to be the same as they were. That's just how I see it.
I'll spoil my own video.
Best for that.
But that's one of the things I'm talking about this week. It's like, you know, Disney Plus isn't moving the needle. The community hasn't felt they've got their value out of that. And I think the movies may still, at least the ones that are surprised, like the things that catch us off guard that we are telegraphed
like
weeks and months in advance, may have some movement. But I think this flavor of the week Disney Plus stuff is at an end.
Yeah, I think for sure the Disney Plus is just it doesn't have the event feel that is going to really create the FOMO buy anymore. I think the movies could still do that, although like obviously with what I got up, the movies are in a little bit of turmoil. But my thing is, I think if you look back to it, and it's not like a perfect science. I mean, nothing of this is perfect market or perfect science, but I honestly think the Avengers movies are the things that get people like lit up.
Yep.
Like I think when you have the Avengers films, that creates a lot of like the like not just what happened in the film, but that's when like people get excited and the gears start spinning, and then people start thinking of the spec and the deeper cuts and stuff, and that's really moves all the market. So my feeling is like, you know, when you get to like Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars and stuff, like that's going to be like we're all going to be losing our mind again. That's my.
I hope we are. Oh, it's gonna be awesome.
Is the movie stuff really dying? I mean, I'll just go point to Wolverine 88 and be like, well, I mean,
that's true. But you know what it is? Actually, it's really a budget thing. If you're talking about a key that is $25, $50, or $100, those are the ones that are always going to sell. It's hard to move your 181, no matter how hype.
You can be impulsive with $100 bill. It's hard to be impulsive with $30,000.
Yeah.
The other thing about 181 is
for me. I mean, maybe you guys roll deep. I don't know.
Most people.
181's not hard to find. You know what I mean? Like 181's everywhere. I mean, and don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I'm coming from the sports card side of things, where 181 total CGC census would look tiny on the sports card world for sure. But like, you know, I also realize that the market that's in is, and same with like, you know, New Mutants 98, like in a 9.8, there's from the comic book perspective, there's a lot of those. From the card side, it looks minuscule. But same thing, like it takes more to move those prices because there's more in the market to jump it. Whereas a lot of these like random stuff, there's not as many slab books. Like, I don't know, what's the census on a 88? A couple hundred, isn't it? Like a few hundred?
It was probably decent. It was probably decently up, but like, yeah, to your point, it's like the White Vision thing where it's like how many 9.8s were on the market ready to go when that thing happened. It's like,
so it's easier to jump that price up a lot faster.
Right. Yeah.
And that just circles back to like the conversation we were having about the signed books with Peach MOMOKO, like racing to be at the front of the line when the demand gets there. That's all books like this are.
Yeah.
Well,
shout out to with like 181 versus like 88, you know, 88's ultra modern, so people only want 9.8 or modern or / ultra modern. Like people only want that in a 9.8. 181, you could go the whole way down the census. Like, so you just have way more great options. Like no one's buying a Wolverine 88 in like a 9.2, like at least most people, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas
that makes sense.
Wolverine or 181, you could go all the way down to a 3.5, and some people are going to be thrilled with that, depending on what your market is.
That's one of those books that literally has my mind blown. I cannot fathom why people are paying what they're paying for that book. It makes zero sense to me. 88.
Oh yeah.
Just 0 sense to me.
Really quick, shout out to Christian Garza here. Thank you for the $2, man. She-Hulk cameo, trash. Werewolf by Night is amazing.
Yeah.
I got a chance to watch Werewolf.
Werewolf by Night was pretty dope. Yeah.
It's great.
She-Hulk, you know, I'm in the camp where I don't love it. I know some people love it, but that's
just don't like fun. No,
I hate fun. I
I watched it today. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I thought the last episode was really fun, but I don't know. I didn't feel like today's episode was very satisfying.
Yeah.
It was okay.
It was odd.
But there were some things, you know, in some, you know, Chris, you flashed those books, and there's some other, you know, news stuff going around like this here. And Harrison Ford has in fact been cast as Thunderbolt Ross. And, you know, we're talking about all the stuff that we talk about with the market, and like, you know, this stuff still does have effects, right?
Yeah, I sold $4,000 worth of this book today. So.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're not going to say anything, guys. You know, we're not going to say anything. We're just going to scroll past the books, and you can just assume what might have happened. But, you know, with the General Ross casting thing, you know, all of a sudden you have.
So yeah, hot new spec tip, Incredible Hulk 1. Pick it up.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't pick that one. A lot of these books that start with a S right here are moving for some reason.
I wonder why.
Who knows why? But yeah, you know, you're seeing this. So, you know, the stuff still does move the market. I know we all kind of think like this is like, why would anyone do this? But I don't know. There are people out there who.
I will say this before it was like a massive movement. Now it's like the books sell aggressively for maybe 20% more, maybe 40% more at max, where before a year ago, it would have been 200, 300%, like after something was announced. And it's okay. It's actually okay. It's just like, you know, You're just going to sell your books instead of waiting now.
I don't think it has anything either to do with the fact that like Spec is dead or whatever. I think it's more to do with the general economy than it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you just have options as a buyer. That's all there is.
Like I mentioned it earlier. Like, let's see what happens when they start, dropping mutants first appearances in the MCU left and right. What do those books do? Like, if the economy, we're probably still a ways away from that. If things are in a better place in a general world state, I have a feeling most stuff's going to go nuts. If we get, Jubilee's in the new X-Men movie on the main roster, like that book's probably going to go crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like X-Men's a special thing because they broke through in multiple decades. They were the, arguably second biggest Marvel book in the 80s. They had the 90s cartoon that so many of us grew up on. They were one of the first major comic book movies to get a foothold. So that right there is
one of the most popular cartoons ever.
Yeah. 30 consecutive years or 3 consecutive decades where they made a significant cultural impact across 3 different types of media. So there's a lot of people out there who know who the X-Men are, and all they need is that little shove to be all in on X-Men again.
Yeah, that's true. That's the, there's two worlds where I still think the market will always still lose their mind, even in this, down economy or whatever. I think one, if you get the character, like you mentioned Drew earlier, that just like takes everyone by surprise. Like if all of a sudden, they bring in, I don't know,
Channing Tatum walks in a trench coat flinging cards.
Or if Absorbing Man becomes like the main villain, it's like no one was really like stacking Absorbing Man books, and then all of a sudden guaranteed, like that book becomes like, no, that one does double in price and it doesn't go back because like you've seen it with, what was it? The Clea book or the Wonder Man book or whatever. Like maybe they had their pullbacks after that initial FOMO, but like those are the books that really do, like they do go up and they stay
absolutely
whatever it is, 30 or 40%. Those are the ones that like people are really not thinking about. And then there's the book, like, I got the one behind Rob that I still, I feel like I have to talk it up because,
the one you FOMO'd me into?
I FOMO'd you into it, but I still think Avengers 8, I'm telling like, I think that I mean, I have to really dig into the numbers and stuff, but it has corrected a lot. And I really
it is so cheap right now. And especially in the lower grades, it's nauseating.
I got a pretty good deal on that one. I don't remember. I got to look at what I paid for that, but I think I got a pretty solid deal on that.
Dude, I think that the fact that, we're getting Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars and stuff through 2025 and 2026. Like we're going to see him, like he's not going to suffer from the villain problem, which is like, one and done and then you don't see him again. Like we're going to see him multiple times. And I just think that guy's going to kill it.
Yeah. Honestly, right now, I feel like Avengers 8 is the glass door that we're all as a community about to run into. Like it's right there. It's obvious. That's a glass door, but we're going to take off sprinting. We're going to smash our faces in it. And because one of these days it's going to explode. And, you can pick up a 2.0 for like $300-$400 right now.
Yeah, it's not a bad price.
Yeah, I got that's a 3.5. I paid $7.50 for it, but mine's white pages.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I think even that is in. I think off the top of my head is like still in trend line to all of what we talked about.
I sold all my like a sucker.
Shout out to Nick here, super sticker, appreciate it, man. But yeah, I think that
let's see. October GPA sales on a 3.5 are 600, 730, 700, and 930 just a couple days ago.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, guys. I actually have to take off. I have to work till 5 a.m. So.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for hopping on.
It was a pleasure. I love you.
Good to see you, man.
Okay,
take
you
care.
too. I'll see you guys soon.
Later.
Peace out. Shout out to Vancouver Comic Junkie. If you guys don't know, go sub him up. I don't think I have his link in the description. I forgot to put it on, but definitely go check him out. He's always doing some great CGC unboxings and stuff. So that stuff's always fun. But yeah, 3.5 right here. Even look at the last sale.
Wow.
Was 927.
When
749. So you got it at a really good kind of bounce level. And I think
I like the fact that I don't know how much the page quality matters on a book like that, but I feel like white pages on a book like that definitely gives it a little extra juicy juice.
Yeah.
For a discerning collector, it'll make a little difference.
I think
mine
so,
also
for sure.
presents extremely well. Mine looks
those wider covers, if you can get them where they don't cream up, that'll also, you can squeeze a little extra out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine has like really good color for a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Wait, why can't I do this? Make
So
you big.
How to work StreamYard. Amateur hour over here.
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah, for a 3.5. Sorry about the glare, but
yeah, it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some creasing and stuff like up in the corner there, but
yeah, I still like the book. I think it, you know, it's funny. I think there is maybe a subset of collectors, maybe the more old school ones, that kind of meme on him a little bit. And I get it. Maybe he wasn't as cool, but you know, once upon a time, Thanos was not as cool as well.
I'm a sucker too for anything under $1,000. Like if it's under $1,000, I am much more likely to just be like, oh yeah, sure, Elite Grails or whatever. That's a good deal. Claim.
You card guys with your crazy rules and stuff.
There is
wild.
There is something.
It just seems to be like the magic number in my head. When it's over 1,000, it's just like I need to go do a bunch of like research on this. And then if it's like under 1,000, I like look at it and I like go check, you know, GPA or whatever current prices, and I'm like, okay, this is in line, done. Like,
no, I mean, I'm exactly the same way. I can spend $999.99 all day long.
Right.
You roll that fourth digit on there, and it's like, no, I'm not spending it.
Yeah.
Like same thing. I just picked up. I got it in right before NYCC. I got an X-Men 50, which I'd been looking for forever, and it was the same thing. It popped up. It was an 8.0. I think I paid like $650 for it, and I'm just like, yeah, I've been wanting this book forever. It's $650, done. Bing. I don't care that I'm going to New York City Comic Con next week.
Yeah,
like I'll never be able to. It was also too. It's like if I went to New York City Comic Con to try to buy that book, the same grade probably would have cost me like $850.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For the con.
My problem this year's been, it's like, oh hey, I got a show coming up. Guy picks up like, hey, you want to buy my collection? Yes, I do. And now I have no money to spend at the show. Awesome.
Yeah, there is something
about one of the big IG sellers had a 9.2 Avengers 8 posted.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Grails has been on fire this week. I mean, everything.
Someone else had a 9.2 X-Men 4 white pages, and I was blown away.
That thing was gorgeous, and it was only like, what was it, like 14.5,
I think.
Okay,
I was just looking at it. I just pull it up and look at it sometimes.
So it was a number that wasn't inexpensive, but it didn't seem as high as I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello. Well, now I'm speaking Como's language with the images you see right there.
You can't throw a whole bunch of Johnny Craig up on the screen and not expect me to get excited.
Well, yeah, I thought we could go that way, but we have to still talk about this Avengers 8 situation because it goes back to like the market thing, which I think is interesting when we talk about like the high end level. And it's weird because so if we go to like this right here and I go down to, come on, 9.2. I'm getting more into like the census stuff here, right? It's like the top 3%. If you have a 9.2, right? So there's only say 50 copies above yours at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Does that protect you or does that hurt you? Because in theory, these people should be holding, right? So in theory, it should be protecting you, but are we going to get a lot of sellers on the high end here? Like what I want to know is like, who are the people that are holding that? Like, you know, someone who bought the AF-15 for $3 million, right? Like, are they trying to flip their book right now? Are they worried, or they just have like Bezos money and they don't care?
I think the guys who are,
I don't think you care about flipping.
Yeah, I think the guys who are players at that level are recession proof.
Yeah, that's a different market
type of buyer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, who's to say like, you know, they bought at $3 million or whatever, but who's to say they didn't cash out like their Bored Apes or whatever and a bunch of other nonsense that's at zero right now?
That's true. Yeah.
Maybe whatever they gave up to get that book, even though that book is maybe down 30%, they're still better off than what they would have been. You know, that's the thing you don't know. Like, did they cash out on some other nonsense to make a play on that? And yeah, that's down too, but you're way safer than what you were.
Man,
you know, some NFT shenanigans or crypto or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
That thing is gorgeous,
right?
Is that the one on? I think it's Grails that has the 9.2.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up some of the last sales and stuff. I think this is probably not necessarily the one, but like, I mean, just the 9.2. Look at this, just
There can't be many of them.
The colors, so good. Let's see. There's
The
28.
Avengers 8 is $8,000 if you got $8,000 laying around.
That doesn't seem bad at all.
$79.99.
I mean, what do I know? But
or best offer.
I love OBO.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, to my point from earlier, you know, there's been some screaming deals that go up. It's also interesting, you know, there's no way to chart this. And I'm going to keep using Girls on Elite because I think those are the two biggest consigners on IG that at least I'm aware of anyway. It's interesting to see what gets posted at what I think is a good price and no one claims it.
Totally.
That to me is more fascinating than the stuff that gets insta-claimed.
That's the stuff I feel like I've been, you know, in some of the videos and stuff I've been talking about.
It's like, ooh, that's a fair price on. That seems like fair. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, you don't know what's going on in DMs, but just the fact that no one's like outright claimed it yet is always, to me, that's the interesting side of it. I think that gives you a better idea of what the market is doing on what gets posted and doesn't get action.
And just instantly
as the
is
stuff
gone.
that actually sells. There's the 9.2.
Right. Oh, where was it?
You scroll past.
Oh yeah, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great point. Because it is like some of the stuff, it's like you see it, and not only is it a good price, it's like no one is jumping on this. So it's like that's like almost like a amplified version of like, oh man, is anyone else seeing this right now? Like, is this? Are we in dire straits with the market?
That's posted fairly commonly.
Yeah. But there are like, you know, there's some other like good stuff here. Like, let's see. Here's a book I think is, I don't know. This just doesn't move. This book just, it's going to be the villain of, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy. And
$300 for a 6L.
$300 for 6L. Like that seems like such a good deal. But this is one of those books where the mid to low grade levels of this have really not moved. You know, some of the more high end stuff has been moving.
That's a late 66, right? November 66.
It's 66. So 66 kind of, I guess, is that weird year, right? Where you have like the FF52s and stuff. And so I don't know what a accurate comparison for this book would or should be. Like who's a villain that came out around this time? You know, proportional, where should it be selling? But I don't know. You know, you just see some of these books and I was tempted to buy it, but 66.
Yeah. So so interesting comparison on the same page, go ahead and X out of that and go up to the top right corner. There's a first appearance of Juggernaut for twice as much.
Yeah, that's 64 though, isn't it?
Oh, it's 65. Yeah. This is 65.
65, mid 65.
So yeah,
so I mean, you're right.
You're right. But it's like, you're right. So it's like, granted, Juggernaut should be more expensive, but like at what value level are we talking about now? Where it's like you're getting a pretty good value for the punch of it. Where it's like, okay, you have the handicap because it's a year later. You have another handicap because I think you could easily argue Juggernaut is more popular. But
and 10 months ago, a 4.0 was selling for that price.
Yeah, this book has really dropped off quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for one of those. So I was just looking at GPA on that book. I'm like, oh, they have one of those.
Yeah, this book, and then I always like to compare this one and Avengers 8 and FF 49. Those are kind of the three I always look at relative to each other. And this one has really, really dropped off quite a bit. Understandably so, because it's.
So is the ASM Manual 1.
When are we going to see?
Another one that's come down is that I see it in that group shot is that XM94.
Oh yeah, 90. This one, right?
That's another one that's like kind of on my list that I was always like, this got way too expensive, but now it's like, has the market overcorrected on this?
It's certainly possible. I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but this is definitely one that has.
I just know it's come way down. I don't know if it's come down enough, but it's one that's like on my radar that's come down a lot from where it was.
Yeah. What's your feeling on this one here? Like this one has fallen quite a bit. And I feel like every single day I see this for sale, like 4 times a day.
Everyone should buy this book. It's a fantastic book.
It's awesome. It's definitely awesome. Feels like we'll get them again. The real them, maybe. I don't know.
I feel like it was one of those books that you just never saw. And then everybody's like, oh, hey, all these Spider-Man villains, let's dust these off. And all of a sudden there's supply everywhere. But, you know, up until No Way Home, you maybe see one at a show, two at a show, if that. Now they're everywhere. They're like, so I guess they were kind of the comic book version of cockroaches. Now that we've turned the lights on, they're just scattering.
Yeah, everyone is just trying to move it, which is pretty wild here. But we got Ryan in the chat. Should we maybe talk I don't know, pre-code horror? Rob, have you got bitten by a bug that I've been bitten by, which is pre-code horror? My new obsession. My new obsession.
Zero interest
with all of this stuff.
Your bank account will thank you.
I can't stop, guys. I can't stop.
Heritage. Nobody bet on that Adventures into the Unknown.
Yeah, it is true. I have tons of Silver Age. Like, you know, I have personal nostalgia and all that for the Silver Age stuff. I'm kind of joking with the pre-code horror. There's some cool stuff in here, but I have to really, really, really like it to allocate budget to it because there's still so many Silver Age books that I want, like Marvel stuff. But this Heritage auction, I don't know, Drew, how are you feeling? Are you gonna
just keep on scrolling? I don't want anybody to see the Adventures of the Unknown 1. That's my book. Nobody bid on that.
Wait. Let's go to my tracked books here. Let's see. Did I put that one down? This is some other sales.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what did I have here?
Unfollow that.
Okay, just
nothing to see here.
Nobody look at this book. Okay, everyone in the chat,
just
make sure that if you're watching this on Heritage Auctions on October 28th when they do their Halloween special, nobody bids on this one.
Nobody needs to bid on that. Yeah, all 138 of you.
Ryan is in the chat. We already know that Ryan is going to be bidding on this book.
Don't do it, Ryan.
I can already see that in some unboxing reveal from him.
Yeah. Here's another kind of cool, you know, it's interesting to see with some of these covers how they trend and what like the market likes, where it's like you start to have some of these like being choked underwater or, you know, these types of poses. These seems to be the like they're cool to me. Like it's cool art, but like it's not really something that I want to show off on my wall. But I understand why the market likes this stuff.
I tell you, my favorite thing about these Atlas books, especially the earlier ones, is the little 3 inserts on the side. Sometimes those are better than the whole like featured part of the cover. There's just some really cool little art blurbs that'll pop in there from time to time. So
you're talking about the little panels on the left. Yep. Oh, okay.
The little insets.
Yeah.
Sometimes those things are great.
Yeah, these are the before Marvel was Marvel ones, and they definitely are not. They're less popular. They're not as pricey.
Punch 12.
Yeah, you got Punch 12. This is the one that everyone likes. There's this one too, Punch 11, which I think you can controversially argue that maybe this would be the first horror cover. If you want to go that route, you could start to argue that. It's certainly the first skull, I think, on a cover.
What's the date on that?
This is 44.
Wow, I didn't realize Punch was quite that early.
Yeah, so this is 12 is this is 11 and then this is 12. So maybe undervalued. I don't know. Only 144 right now with buyer's premium. 24 watchers compared to this one, which has 93 watchers, if that's an indication of.
Bet you that Automatic Comics guy is watching it.
Yeah, we know Ryan is watching it. Let's see what Ryan's chiming in here. The Fiction House specialized auction on Heritage tonight was very strong. Well, that's interesting too, and I've been meaning to ask Ryan about that. That would be another kind of data point to kind of look at, which would be, you know, what's the, because you can see it on Heritage is kind of nice because it'll tell you like the entire lot's value, like what it sold for that night, and it would just sort of be interesting to see month or week to week or month to month or every 2 weeks or whatever, like what are the values of the lots. Granted, there's going to be a margin because depends on what's being sold, but like it would be interesting to see if they themselves are going down in terms of the money that's being spent. It has to be, right?
You never know. A lot of these are, I mean, pre-code horror used to be a fairly niche thing. Fiction House is kind of its own little subset within the hobby. Like there are people who are really passionate about it. So if you can maintain that focus, I feel like you're not spread out. Yeah, you can just kind of pick and choose a little bit more, but you're still playing in that sandbox, right? You're not
Right.
scattered out across the entire Marvel universe, right? You're collecting Ghost or what have you, Planet, something like that.
Right. Right. Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting with the heritage stuff. I mean, we'll see. We'll see with this horror lot here.
I really like that they threw together this PCH auction right before Halloween.
Yeah, yeah, it is pretty cool. Except like, I mean, I don't know, like, you know, I feel like there's it's missing some of the iconic keys in a way. It feels like it's a lot of fill.
This is the leftover stuff that didn't make it in one of the feature auctions. It's like, okay,
Right,
we got to take
right.
all of this, and then we'll just smash all the leftovers here in front of Halloween and make it an event.
Yeah, because there isn't too much of the like Tales from the Crypt and Vault of, you know, there's like the kind of the main titles. There's not much of it in this auction.
Nah, there's really not. And even some of the better issues that are in there, like that Punch 12 was restored, lower grade copies.
Yeah,
you know, the issue after the issue you really would like to have or something like that.
Yeah. Well, this is Horsecock Express here. Golden Age outperforming everything else and growing versus other ages. Well, that is the thing, you know, that is interesting about Golden Age. I mean, there's no denying that Golden Age is going to hold its value better, but you know, we're just talking, well, there's less supply. So you're going to have less paper-handed individuals selling their book and creating like, you know, that sort of downward pressure on the values of everything because they just don't go up for sale that often. Yeah. But with a lot like this, you know, you can make the argument. It's like if you have Adventures into Darkness, sure, it's going to protect its value, but like, what is the liquid value of this book compared to like, you know, a Marvel key that everybody really likes, you know?
Just looking at this from like a dealer standpoint, one of my buddies, MSG Comics, he was in the chat earlier. He always just has a shelf of random pre-code horror books that, you know, he picks up on a good deal, an auction here, an auction there, whatever. And that stuff draws people in. So it doesn't have to be a hitter if the cover is strong enough. And it's just one of those things that, you know, again, from a dealer standpoint, if you can catch somebody's attention, just get them to stop and engage and start looking at what you've got. I mean, that's a good thing. And people will, if a cover speaks to them, even if it's not a known issue or a hot pre-code horror book, if it's got some element that they connect with, it's a fairly nice thing to have because you don't see a lot of that kind of stuff on people's walls. So it can definitely, you know, bring you some business. And if, you know, you're selling things underneath that $300 to $500 point where people get kind of sticky with their money, you know, if you can pick up just a random pre-code horror book and, you know, put less than $200 on it, you're going to turn that book fairly quickly most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like the, you know, the billboard for your booth, or can be, you know, a billboard for your booth in that way. But like, I think that just I think there's a reason why, just in terms of like the whole Golden Age thing, it's like, I think volume wise, the demand for Marvel is still just going to be higher.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like vacuum talking about.
Yeah. Stuff. That's why it gets one shelf.
Right. Right. How about some trending keys, guys? Are you guys into Star Wars at all? Rob,
you know,
have you been to Star Wars?
I love Star Wars, but not the comics.
What about like, is there like a Star Wars card market or collectible or anything that is like interesting going on right now?
Yeah, it got pumped like everything else did. I specifically, I don't like mess around with like random like refractors of parallels and stuff like that. I like going for the actor autos on card.
Let's see that.
Like
yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
And then I got the I can pull it back up. Pedro Pascal.
And
I got the Jeremy Bullock, the original Boba Fett.
Now, are these
Nice.
fairly new in terms of like when were these printed?
This was 2020. This was 2019, I think.
Gotcha. So what's that market like right now? I mean, what's like, I'm always still like fascinated by if the non-sport card market moves in any way to pop culture, or if it's purely maybe, or is the market just still so immature that it's just like people are still just trying to figure out what the keys are, and the keys are the big characters.
So I could speak more to like the actor auto side of things because I follow that a little bit more closely. It's definitely tied more so to supply to a general point. Like Carrie Fisher sells for the most because she's not signing anymore. And then it kind of goes down from there with like, Mark Hamill, Ford, and then Pedro Pascal sells extremely well. He's one of the most expensive ones because he hasn't signed for multiple years, and there's rumors that he might not sign much more. Like he just doesn't want to sign anymore. So there's just not a lot of inventory on the market. Like there was a time when on Star Wars Stellar, which is like the premier autographs brand for cards, there was, now this has since changed, but for a hot minute, there was like almost 10 months between sales on eBay of one of those Pedro Pascal Stellar cards. So it just kind of depends. And then like the lower end characters, they could get pretty cheap. But like right now, you could definitely see a little Rosario Dawson buzz because of the Ahsoka show that's going to be coming.
Right.
For sure. But I haven't noticed this, like to swing it to like towards Marvel cards. On the Marvel card side of things, I haven't really seen, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Prices don't spike, but liquidity spikes.
Right.
Okay.
So like you're not going to sell it for like double or whatever because all of a sudden like Moon Knight's on Disney Plus, but you will have an easier time selling a Moon Knight card at current market value or maybe like 10% above, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Just like that eBay listing that's been sitting there all of a sudden does sell.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get, and then the next one's not going to sell for 20% more than that one. But there's a decent chance that if you post it, it'll probably sell around what, if you're reasonable on your ask.
Right.
It'll move. It seemed that's what I'm seeing more on like Marvel stuff specifically. It's more about the liquidity than it is about, it jumping 20, 30, 40% in price because of a movie or whatever, or an announcement.
Right.
I love, as parallel as the two hobbies are, I really appreciate when Neo comes on and starts talking about, how that market reacts different versus ours. It's just so wild. I really enjoy the perspective.
There's a lot of similarities, but there are definitely a lot of weird differences for sure.
What were you going to say, Drew, about Star Wars when I was asking you?
I scrolled through the list and I was just like, what the hell is all this stuff?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you scrolled through that list and I didn't recognize a single book.
Yeah, quick cover. Like, here, this one to me is like, okay, Elektra. I'm not sure why did this one move recently? I don't know, but okay, Bloodstone, right?
Okay,
that makes sense.
And the thing is, if you scroll through on your phone,
here's the peach one you got,
If you scroll through on your phone where it gives you the arrows for the price indicators, half of the stuff's going down. More than half the stuff's going down in value. It's red. But the Red Goblin stuff, I have no idea why that's back on there.
I think the Red Goblin one might be because of what's going on in current comic books, the storyline, which I think it's always like, it's actually a good thing that current storylines can move books as well. I think that's actually a good thing for comic books, for that to be a behavior in the market. But it was interesting to me because I'm not quite caught up on Andor yet, but I feel like
that show is so good.
It's great. It's great. But I feel like has it been moving the Star Wars books? Maybe I've just been sleeping on it and I haven't been paying attention, but like I'm seeing Star Wars books here. Maybe the reason why these are on the list this week is because
I can't think of anything that happened that would have moved anything.
There's, Sana Solo. This is the Han Solo's daughter or something, and so I think that maybe there's been talk, right? What is it here? Gets her own comic series. Okay. And maybe that's all. Cover appearance of Sauna. So I guess,
Probably just Spec though. I mean,
yeah,
like
just
Hey.
kind of a Spec.
Hot damn, I think I got some of these. I bought them in a collection. I'm like, man, all right, I got some Star Wars stuff. Well, shit, none of these are worth anything. That's the way it is. If I buy a collection that has Star Wars stuff in it, it's the stuff nobody wants. So I think I actually have a couple of these. So that's exciting.
Yeah, time to list them.
But I mean, the thing I noticed is that everything that's hot right now is affordable. There's nothing like really big outside of, I think the Daredevil 168 is probably the hottest book or the most valuable book on the list. Everything else is under $200.
Yeah.
Most of it under 100.
Yeah. Sana is Han's wife. Sorry about that. Thank you.
So we're seeing this on the sports card side of things. It's what a lot of people I think have realized is it's a lot easier to turn $50 into $150 than it is to turn 2,000 into 2,500.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a flip game perspective, like, if you're looking to buy at 10% below comps, hope something happens, and then, sell it for a little bit above or whatever. Right now, it kind of goes back to our point earlier about like our magic number is like $1,000. Figuring out what your collectible market, what that magic number is for the most amount of people, I think is very key.
Yeah.
Because that's the stuff that's still moving. Like on sports cards, the market's down right now. People aren't spending money. But if you get into a couple $100 and you're priced at current market prices, stuff will still fly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start getting closer to that like $500 to $1,000 number, it's a little bit of a different story. Like the higher you go up, it's a little bit of a more different story. But it's also easier for that stuff to spike higher faster.
Yeah, that makes sense. Two things real quick.
From a percentage gain standpoint, you're better off, dollar figure wise, in a single transaction, you may make less, but you can make more smaller transactions for higher percentage gains. And
you're running volume, not margin.
Yeah.
Right. Shout out to Bronze Age Nerds. Yeah. If you guys don't know, if you want to hear more about the Peach MOMOKO thing, which we talked a little bit about at the beginning of the show, go check out Bronze Age Nerds channel. He had a Trish on and they talked about it and had better accounts and stuff. So if the rewind is up, definitely go check it out. It was a good conversation.
So is it safe to be an influencer / YouTuber at any convention right now? Or do you just have a target on your back waiting?
No way. There's laser pointers when you walk into the door, I think. I mean, you too, at this point. But I mean,
I could fly under the radar at a comic convention because it's not like,
yeah, maybe at the comic stuff, but soon, soon. I mean, you guys got to go check out Neo's got the good car. It's the good perspective, right? It's always good perspective. I try to keep, I always watch Neo's videos so I can check myself, because we're all in the Kool-Aid bubble here of thinking comics.
I've learned more dabbling, even if I don't like actively buy a lot, just following the other markets that I'm in.
Yeah,
you can learn a lot that applies
totally
to your own, even if you're not actively buying sports cards or non-sports cards or like whatever, pick one of the three. Even if you're not active in that market, you can learn a lot just kind of following like what's the vibe over there, or like what's prices doing, or what's the narrative, or so especially sports cards, because sports cards definitely, out of all the collectible markets, we seem to kind of lead the way with whatever the overall, everything kind of tails behind us. Like our grading companies got all backed up first when things went crazy. And then like a couple months later, CGC and CBCS were all backed up.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I did want to say the one thing, Rob, where you were talking about with like the easier to make the 50 to the 100 versus like the 2,000 to like the 2,200 or whatever the numbers breakdown were. But this is the thing that I think is funny, where So my thought going into this market and starting back at San Diego Comic-Con and like trying to do the trades, which, I was able to work out, but I was also surprised that there weren't dealers that were interested in doing the trade, where it's like, I'm going to give you $3,000 books for your $3,000 book. And yeah, I'm getting like the bigger key or whatever the trade is, but I would have just imagined that you're going to get quicker cash by having those $3,000 books. It's going to be easier for you to sell those things.
Down. It's going to be easier for them to trade. They're getting more stuff that's easier to move. So on the sports card side of things, that's happening a lot.
So it's interesting because I feel like in the comic side, it's not that they are against that, but I didn't feel let's talk about that as much as I thought I would. And Drew, I
Yeah.
don't know, dealer perspective. What do you think? Like,
well, I mean, that's basically been the story of my summer, what you just said. It's like, you know, I went in on a couple of trades and it's just like got shot down every time. And I think the last one was the most egregious one. It's like, here's this book that's selling for 15% more than the book I'm trying to trade into, much more of a liquid book. And the guy's like, yeah, no. And then,
right.
you know, it's that albedo too. You send me a link, you know, 45 minutes after I start talking about this. You're like, yeah, here's the next grade higher that's signed and remarked for $1,000 less than what this guy wants.
Right.
Like, oh crap, I hope he doesn't take it. But I again, that was, you know, August when I was striking out at C2E2 and some pretty substantial vendors, and you know, some guys I've known for years that just aren't that into trade. And I understand it, because a lot of times those guys, the way they source a lot of this stuff is they'll come to, you know, shows around the country and buy from guys like me that happen to get lucky and find something good. They'll go and they'll pay, you know, if they can work a deal, they'll get 10 or 20% off, you know, whatever somebody like me is trying to sell it for at a convention, but then they've got to take it back to their booth and, you know, slap an extra 20% on FMV so they can make their profit on it. So when you pay up for a book like that, I understand wanting to get cash back out of it, especially in a time like this right now, where a dollar bill is going to go a lot further when you're actually sourcing, especially like original owner or, you know, collector sourced inventory. You know, the price per book, price per long box is coming down, which obviously makes a dollar more attractive than, you know, a book you can sell.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just to what Rob, you're saying, like where people, you know, a lot of that type of stuff is happening. I just would have thought that the dealers would be more interested in that, but part of me just thinks like, you know, dealers, they got their wall and then they got their bins, and maybe for them, like, you know, the wall is just the advertisement. They'd actually prefer not to sell any of that and just make all their money in the bins. And maybe that's really like they want to sell, like, you know, X-Men for Omega Red 5 times, you know,
the biggest mistake I
$20.
see people making, and this was when the market was at its peak, or even now that it's coming down by far, is the fear of taking the loss. Like, people don't want to sell if they're in the red. And it is by far and away the biggest mistake people make, I think. Like, if you're under on a book, so what? Like, you have to sit down and do the math. If you paid $1,500 for it and it's at 1,000, are you better off to sell it at 1,000 and have the 1,000 to put in the play for something else and make your money back that way, or sit on that, whatever the book is or whatever it is, card, book, whatever, and sit on it and say, I hope, what's it going to take for this to get back to 1,500 to my break even point, let alone to actually making a profit on it? Am I better off to eat the $500 loss or whatever it is and take that money that I freed up and buy these other things that are coming down and put it into something that has more potential?
Yeah.
The people are so scared. They don't want to sell. They don't want to mark red down in their spreadsheet. And I think it's the number one mistake people make across all the collectible markets.
Sometimes you just got to generate revenue, you know, whether
it
you're
also
marking red or black, you just need cash.
Yeah. It's also one of those things where it's like, you know, like with some tips for selling stuff is like, I just think of it like, don't try to be so specific on any one book. Like, it's really like your entire collection coming in and your entire collection going out. Are you generally winning more than you're losing? If you are, then that's fine, you know. And if you can apply, like you said, if you can sell a book and move it and have it, you know, go into something else that you'd rather have, like, I mean, just do it if you think that that's a good idea. And, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like there's tons of books. Like, I had a claim sale and there's tons of books where like I sold it at a loss or I sold it breaking even, but you know, that's money that I could then use and put into trading up my Avengers or buying, you know, whatever else I've recently picked up. And it's like, that's okay. Like, cause I believe in, you know, the new things I'm picking up. And so you're totally right. I think that people just fear the red so much.
Yeah. And right now you should be taking a hard look at your collection, whether it's cards, comics, or whatever. And in my opinion, move off the stuff you don't want. Free up cash because deals are going to come. And then what would you rather have? Something sitting in a bin that you're kind of meh on? Or would you rather have the money out of that book to go buy something that falls into your lap at a good price? You know, now I think now is the time. Obviously, sure, we all wish we would have sold everything 6 months ago because we could buy it all back cheaper right now. But take a hard look at whatever you collect and go, I don't know that I really need this. Let's get rid of this and start building up a little bit of a war chest. Because I mean, we're seeing great deals on stuff every single day on something. Something's going to fall into your lap, and you're going to be pissed at yourself if you're like, man, I wish I just had that $2,000 right now. And you're looking at your wall or your boxes or whatever, going like, I could have sold those 3 things. I would have taken a little bit of a loss, but I'd rather have this thing over here, but I don't have the cash for it.
Yeah, and that's the story of my summer. Like, I went hard into buying into phase 1 of, hey, the world's going to crap. Now we're in phase 2. I'm like, yeah, I need to reload because I'm sure I'm missing deals out there at these prices. So it's real world stuff.
And I love the saying, you know, the Rob, where you're always talking about like, you know, there's no police that are going to prevent you from buying it back. And it's really, really true. And I'm going to cover swipe your saying in my video tomorrow, because I have just a casual little handful of books I picked up this last week, just a little comic haul thing, and every single one of them is a book that I owned and I sold it and I just bought it back. And so like the point is like, you can buy this stuff. Like there's no rules, there's no laws that you can't have it again. So yeah, if it's just sitting in your bin right now and you're just not really feeling it, and you can apply that equity to something else, or apply that, you know, whatever you have in it, even if it's at a loss, to whatever else you can get. I mean, it's probably worth doing.
And most of the book, I mean, I don't want to speak for anyone, but I feel like most of the stuff that we all buy and trade in is not, there's nothing that we're moving in and out of that is that rare. Like none of us are buying an AF-15 and like a 9.4 or something like that, where it's like one of these comes to market every year or something crazy like that. I think all of us are working in and out of things that, like, if I really want that again, I could probably find it. Maybe I have to pay more, maybe I have to pay less, but you know.
It's not like what, you know, we were talking about with like some of those, the golden age books or whatever, that you like literally this goes on sale once a year and man, I have to wait another year. Like,
you know, if you have one of your Avengers ones, it's not like it's going to be, you could find that book again. Any con that you walk into is going to have that book. You know what I mean? Maybe not necessarily in the same grades or whatever. And if you got into the ultra high grades, that's a different story. But like in that 2.5 to 5.5, you could probably find that book relatively easily.
I only now just realized by looking at this Bloodstone cover for so long that it, I guess, is a good girl cover. And that, I only ever looked, and guys, just, this is true. I only ever looked on the top side of this book, Bloodstone 1, and looked into her eyes. I never saw what was going on in the bottom third here.
Sure you didn't.
And now I know why this book is so expensive. I know what comic collectors like.
Well, and I think issue 2 gets a lot of love for being good girl as well. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones vibe or something, I think.
Yeah. I got to shout out Ryan. Yeah, I think I'm in that area of the GFs, just the not being able to buy it back area, which is funny though, because it's like, now you have hard cuts, man. Now you have to, you know, kill some of your children in this situation where it's like, you want to open up that cash, you can only hold a few.
Yeah, I mean, I envy you guys who are like, you know, I want a small collection, you know, I want X number of books, or, you know, just these couple of boxes. And I mean, mine's not massive by any means, but it's, you know, all of Silver Age Marvel is a lot of books.
Yeah, it most definitely is.
Maybe one day
I think I have 2 of those black BCW plastic boxes for CGC slabs. And then I have one of a couple different companies make them now. I have a firebox. It's not fireproof. That's just what it's called. And I think Zion makes them now too. They're like the card cases that you see card people carry around, but they're for comic books. I have one of those, and that's where like I always told my wife, I'm like, if something ever happens at the house, that's the box that you grab on the way out the door. But that's my whole CGC collection. It's those 3 boxes. That's it. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably like an 1/8 of my books. That's like just sitting, you know what I mean? Like I try to run lean when it comes to, I don't have a bunch of raw books laying around and a bunch of random CGC. If I buy something, it's usually something that I'm planning on keeping. Like I flip cards. I usually don't flip comics.
I just tell Mrs. Swag, if the house is burning down, just grab the top row at minimum. It's about two
policy.
Yeah, two hands about, and then
it started out with 1 box, then it was 2 boxes. Now it's 3 boxes. Next week it'll probably be just get a dolly.
Yeah. You got to have. I think it's a good. That's a good incentive to have a very, very choice amount of books that you really care for and you won't sell, and the rest you can part with, because in the event that you are in a fire, you're only going to be able to walk out with 1 box or run out with 1 box. So which boxes or what books are going to be in that box? You gotta know.
Yeah. One of my mentors, guy who owned the LCS where I learned how to grade and how to buy and sell collections and stuff. His advice, and this guy opened a comic store in 1973 and just sold it like a year or so ago. So he's been in the game a long time. His advice, he'd tell people who were standing in his store looking for comic books to invest in, he would look them dead in the eye and he'll say, invest your money in something that doesn't burn. And I mean, how can you go wrong with that? It makes sense.
That's true. Well, Jordan has a little question here as we kind of wind it down, kind of talk to some people in the chat. Any tips for moving a lot of $20 or less books? Prefer not to sell in bulk to a dealer. What do you think, guys? You got any tips?
I mean, the lazy way is talk to your local dealer. How much work do you want to put into it? What's your time worth? Do you want to piece it out and maximize the value, or do you want to lump sum and just be done with it and wash your hands? That's how valuable is your time is really the answer to that question.
Yep. And right now, if your time isn't that important or you're willing to invest the time into it, there are more outlets to sell things right now directly to the public than at any time before in history, whether that's Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, you name it. There are
MySlabs.com, sponsor of 2 of
MySlabs.com.
Yeah,
all of us have had.
Yeah, at one point in time. Instagram sellers don't do a lot of that kind of stuff, but hell, it's nothing stopping you from, hopping on some of the hashtags and trying to offer stuff. There's just, if you're willing to put the work in, it's possible to sell them.
Yeah, if you really want it to go too, you can just eBay auction, right? I mean, someone's gonna buy it by the end of the week.
Let it rip.
Yeah. Or
what's the
whatnot too?
What's the consignor space like for low end raw books? Like, I know what it's like for cards, but is that a thing? Like, is there, like I got send stuff off. It's called like DC Sports 87 on the sports card side of things. Basically, anything more than a couple bucks, they just run it for you. Their fees are actually less than what it would probably cost you to sell it yourself. Like, it's like an 85-cent minimum, and then like, I forget what fee that they charge, but it's less than the standard 13% eBay fee because they're a power seller, so they're getting an extra edge. But you ship it off to them, they post it, sell it, and it's on to the next thing. And they just send you a check in the mail on your stuff sales. Like, obviously, I know that there's for CGC books, you could go through any one of the big guys.
Yeah.
But like for more like common man stuff, is that like a thing on the comic side or no?
That's not something I'm aware of.
Well, there's your new business opportunity.
Yeah, it sounds like hell to me. Just running that many low dollar books would hurt me. But
I think the shipping of cards is probably just so much easier to like do quick and fast.
I mean, you have to find the right number on like what's the cutoff point when it becomes, is it like a $20 raw book is viable? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And if you're selling on eBay, you could charge the buyer shipping. It's not like you're getting fully on the hook for the shipping cost.
Yeah.
Feels
like, if anything, I mean, like, easier said than done, but it shouldn't take too long if you're going to sell a lot to just make an Instagram account for sales and just use all the hashtags. And over time, I think people will find you if you're selling stuff, you know, and that seems to be a pretty good way. But I think the live auction, eBay live auction and whatnot, maybe whatnot's hard because you kind of have to build an audience and stuff too. So you could just find yourself as a first time seller in a room with 2 people, you know, and so that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I see the standard people complaining about eBay. Like, hey, listen, we all have our gripes with eBay. It's still the easiest place to move something without a doubt.
eBay has its faults for sure, but it does, you know, and I'm really curious to see what the eBay live competitor tool is going to be to whatnot.
Yeah.
And I personally don't like using whatnot. Nothing against them or the app or whatever, but it's like, I don't want to like go into a room and just sit there and just wait and hope that there's a book that I like or want or whatever. Like eBay, I go on there, search what I want and sort by lowest price. And there you go. Like, that right there is sort of a hard thing to beat.
Whatnot does seem to be favoring the sellers that'll go in and add a picture of each item in the auction and, you know, actually enter in a good description to kind of help alleviate some of that. But yeah, that's part of the reason why I don't do a lot of sales on there. I mean, I still am a seller, but it's just, I can't stand there or can't stand to just sit here and watch most of the auctions. I do have some interest in, and I don't know. It's just the stuff I want to sell on there is not probably the stuff that's going to capture a lot of people's attention for the longevity of a show. However, you know, if it's 30 or 40 items
or whatnot, like from a buyer perspective,
I
would rather watch A1 any Wednesday or Friday than I would pretty much any whatnot stream.
Totally. And
I think that's just me. I could just glance, like they could do a wall scan for 5 seconds and I could check out for 15 minutes until the next wall goes up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. There's something on there that I'm interested in. Let me hang around, or okay, cool. I'll check back in here in 15 minutes. Like I don't have to be one book's going up for 3 minutes or whatever the thing is. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why I like, exactly to that point, why I like the claim sale more than whatnot. Is like, at least you're seeing at minimum 5, 6, 7 books at a time, you know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much. I mean, we all can, you can spot blurry covers by color at this point.
You know,
so you kind of know
you're looking for, you know, exactly. That cover could be, you could see 3 colors and I could not have my glasses on. I'm like, oh wait, that's an ASM 50. Like,
and then I can just be, info on Avengers 8, and you will stop the show and go to it. So it's like on whatnot, it's just one after one. I gotta wait, you know. And so that's just me. Maybe I'm just impatient. I got ADD, but
I know, like at least on the sports card side of things, once again, the power sellers on whatnot are crushing it. Like, the low end market on whatnot for sports cards is like, if you're very well known and you have a large following, those guys make a killing.
Wow.
On that, they just move stuff like crazy, but they have a very large, efficient operate. You know what I mean? Like they are now, they have that down to a science now.
Well, to that point with the whales, you know, who sell one thing. Shout out to Brian McClay, who's been on this channel, and you guys have probably seen him. He was talking about how he's heard that eBay is throwing big money at the influencer type people to drop whatnot, jump onto eBay, do their live. So projections on eBay live. I mean, like my feeling is if user experience wise, if the app runs as smoothly as whatnot does, and they have the backing and money, like I don't see how they wouldn't win in this game. But it has to be good. It has to be good.
I think whatnot has a large parent company behind it, but don't quote me on that.
Huh? Well, I mean, they spend money well.
Yeah, they spend. It seems like they definitely have funding.
To your point, though, I would not be surprised at all if eBay aggressively goes after. I know Whatnot did that. Like Whatnot, you could very much negotiate what your seller fees were if you had the clout to do that. Like when in the early days of Whatnot, when they were reaching out to some people that I know that sell on there, it was very much like, no, I want this, and if you're not giving me that, I'm going to go on Loop, which was like one of their competitors at the time. It still is, but Whatnot's kind of kicked their butt, you know.
Yeah, there's another company.
Definitely a game of you could negotiate your position of strength if you had the audience because those people bring the audience with them. You know what I mean? If if a card collector too, for example, signs on the Whatnot, he's instantly going to have 1,000 people in his room.
Yeah,
like, he's probably one of the biggest Whatnot sellers on the sports card space, and has a massive social media following. He's like 60,000 YouTube subscribers. Like,
it's definitely an interesting thing at this point too, where you look at like some of the markets like like Twitch, right? And remember, you guys know Ninja, the Fortnite streamer.
Yeah, like those guys were getting those exclusive deals.
And but then I forget what was the competitor thing, bought him,
YouTube
and it was big news.
Like wasn't there a war between Twitch and like streaming on YouTube, and like one company would offer one guy one thing or girl, and
it was something, but it wasn't YouTube Live, it was another platform, and I can't remember the name of it, but they bought Ninja, and it was big news. But like he couldn't move the market. Like once you're cornered the market, once you're Amazon, once you're Twitch, once you're YouTube, it is really difficult. So I don't know if Whatnot is there yet. I think eBay is coming out at the right time. So I think that they still have time to swallow everything up, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know how strong the Whatnot brand is at this point.
Well, and maybe they're just positioning themselves for a payday, right? Maybe that's their end goal, is to come up, build this thing up, take the money and run.
Sure. I would sell to eBay. Why not? I mean, they're going to pay you like 500 million or whatever it is.
You'll laugh all the way to the bank.
If anything, I would see like a Fanatics buying Whatnot before an eBay.
Yeah. Well, then you wind up with a bidding war.
Space too. They are 100% going to have live stream selling, whether it's by them doing it from the ground up or them buying somebody. Fanatics will 100% be a player in that space because they want to own everything when it comes to cards anyway. So whether comics get
they're the people who bought out
they bought Topps, and they're probably going to buy Panini, and they own licenses to every sports league.
Oh wow.
They will be as soon as they finish the Panini acquisition, which should be announced, who knows, literally any day. But that's been rumored for like a month. They'll basically totally control the sports card market from end to end.
Wow.
As a one-stop shopping. And they plan to they want everything in-house. Like they want to control it all. That's Fanatics' way of we control it from the time it gets manufactured. We control the reselling platform. Like they want to sell you the box. They want to sell you the card. They want to make their 3% per transaction on you reselling the card over and over and over again. Like they want basically every piece of the pie.
Now, didn't Fanatics, they bought Otis, right?
That I don't remember. I don't pay attention to the fractionals.
I feel like those companies, Otis and so on and whatnot, like all those companies, are they still around? Are they doing stuff?
I think so. You just never hear about them anymore.
Yeah, it feels like we just really don't hear about them, like you said. But
interesting.
Well,
yeah, Fanatics will have a live selling. They've already basically said that they'll have a live selling platform.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then there's all sorts of changes happening. Like YouTube just announced they're really starting to lean into like video podcasting. They're going to start going after people like Joe Rogan style podcasts and stuff. So it's still a very competitive space out there in all forms, I guess.
Yeah, I think YouTube is definitely positioning for the gaming space, trying to take out Twitch, which, Twitch has had its own PR troubles and everything like that. Well, I guess, going for a little bit of time. No Coast has any thoughts right here? We didn't talk about this. Did you guys chat about CGC video games earlier? I guess we can lump in CGC expanding to sports cards as well, but
they've gone the video games, sports cards, Marvel cards, TCGs.
Makes sense. I mean, they should just. I mean, why wouldn't they be in that space? Just anything pop culture.
PSA announced Funko Pop grading at New York City Comic Con.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's interesting. That I feel like the Funko Pop is not quite. Like I would think CGC would jump on Funko Pop, not necessarily PSA, but every grading company wants to do their own stuff. So
yeah, the way things are on the card grading side of things, it's in terms of who has the most money to throw around to jump into a lot of different things. It's PSA and CGC because they both have large financial backings behind them, so they can get a little frisky on experimenting in uncharted territory because if it fails, it won't be the death of the company.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. It's like, is there a market? Has there been a desire for graded Funkos?
I mean, there's a massive demand for Funkos. So if you can all of a sudden put a Gem Mint 10 or a CGC 9.8 on it, we all know what that does.
Yeah, the Funko definitely. So. I think that there is enough money in it to warrant grading. It's like, I think every collectible at this point now is destined to be graded, right? Like
I can tell you right now, walking the show floor at New York City Comic Con for 2 days, more Funko sold than comic books.
Wow. I mean, I've talked to Funko dealers at some of the shows I've done, and
there was more Funko Pops in that building than there were comic books. I would 100% bet my life. No, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I'd definitely wager some money on that there was more Funko Pops in that building.
I mean,
I could definitely go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, just the numbers that those people run in like an end cap. They'll have a 10x10 or a 10x30, and they may have 10,000, 12,000 Funko Pops in there. But you've got some of the bigger comic book dealers that are rolling in with 30, 40,000 comic books. I guarantee the pop people outsell them. I mean, unless they move something 100%. Really big, because the volume, like by the time they wheel those racks out at the end of the weekend, they're half empty or better most of the time.
The longest line was the Funko Pop line.
Wow.
Like for the exclusive stuff at the store, and all that stuff was sold out like immediately.
Mm-hmm. It is really interesting with the Funko stuff.
And they had a house. They literally built a house inside New York City Comic Con that you went into, and it had a line that wrapped around it, and then multiple, Disneyland style zigzags. Like their line was 5 times longer than the Marvel booth.
Yeah, you can definitely get a sense just based on like, okay, whose activation is the biggest here and who spent the most money here.
And
like
their booth was the first thing you walked into when you walked through the main entrance.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense,
center floor stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the Funko Pops is interesting. I mean, look, I see them as being more risky to be a Beanie Baby thing, because anytime you have a collectible that is a collectible that is like actually branded as a collectible, there's always the chance, right? That like, versus like other things like comics and sports cards, and like at least there are other intrinsic-y things about them that people like statistics on sports cards and information, and there's magic cards that you play with and comic books you read and all that. There's always the risk, but then again, like, what do I know? I buy NFTs, so
I think the big difference is that the pops tie back to something pop cultural, whereas Beanie Babies weren't. Like it was just like a cool. There's a purple bear.
I agree with that. That's true.
They just transcend everything.
So does that make Funko Pops? So that does increase, like they can always leapfrog to whatever is actually trending in pop culture, which is great for them. But
they do an excellent job on those things are out fast.
So that's what I wonder though. Is it hot potato? Because like, how well are there like vintage pops now that like hold value, or is it just like Stranger Things is hot, House of Dragon is hot? That's what we should, is
I'm
it that
sure
kind
the
of
people
thing?
that are in it, the ones that probably came out years ago before pops were huge, probably are pretty rare.
And I think just looking at it from like a retailer space over the last couple of years, when they first came out, you saw them a few places, but then stores like Hot Topic, even Walmart and Target got really big and, really expanded what they were carrying. And I've noticed over the last couple of years that footprint in the stores has really shrunk down. And I think that's just because if they don't turn that inventory quickly, to your guys' point, they're on to the next thing. So then you've got all this cold inventory that's just sitting there. So I think there's still the demand. It's just, I think it's more like an online thing or a convention thing for the most part, or will be, or continue to move that
for the
direction.
Value ones, the ones that actually carry legit value versus like the ones that you could buy for $15. But like, how many people own whether you collect them or not? Like, I don't collect them, but I own like a couple random Boba Fett, and just for my desk at work. Yeah. Like I have the it's sitting down on my bottom shelf down there. You can't see it because there's packing supplies in the way. Like I have the Critical Role set from the first season of that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think
that's a really,
people don't own a pop. Like, even if it's one.
That's a really good point, because it's like, you could talk about like normie people like who just have it. Like I know people who don't collect anything, but they also own a pop, right? Like they just have it. Yeah. And there is something to the aesthetics of it. And it actually makes me think, I know this is stupid, but like, this is one thing I will acknowledge to like CGC comic books. Well, I know there's like the whole movement and who are like, oh, raw books, grading is stupid. And I'm kind of sometimes am like the banner to the community that is like more raw pro. But I don't actually feel that way. I'm just like, it's just, I just don't have to have everything slapped. But I feel like maybe CGC on their cases should make them have a stand. Like if your case could just stand by itself, I wonder if there would be more people who would just kind of impulse buy like, that's a kind of a fun thing to have on my desk. I don't know. Maybe it's too big compared to like a Funko.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. The whole flip over and crack and value gone.
Yeah. Because a Funko you could just put it on your desk. Yeah. There you go. And the comic book, it's like you have to, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't
I think you can walk into any office space in this country right now and you're going to find a surprisingly high number of desks or cubicles or workstations that have Funkos in them. I just think it's one for the most part, the commons, it's very low entry level, so you catch them on clearance, they're $10 or 15 or $20, and it's just a very small way to express yourself, put some of your personality, your interest into your space.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Como's actually, she was into pops for a while. She's still got quite a collection.
Yeah, my wife will buy like on occasion. My wife really likes Scarlet Witch, so like if a cool Scarlet Witch pop comes out, she'll grab it for her desk. Like,
yeah.
Or a Baby Yoda. She's a sucker for a Baby Yoda pop.
Yeah.
Like
the thing about Pez could have maybe they had the pop culture thing going. They maybe could have done it, but the thing is Pez looks kind of stupid and pops look good. That's
the best like trash candy
the aesthetics.
ever, though.
Yeah, yeah, but like the design of the pop aesthetics and the box, it just checks a lot of things. I think it just is very satisfying for the widest range of audience.
Indeed.
Derek has a spicy question if you want to close out on something spicy.
Sure. What is this here? Do you guys think CBCS can take some market share from CGC's recent scandals? If the scandals you mean are the acetate stuff, or is that kind of what we're feeling like the scandals are? Or is there other CGC scandals you guys are privy to?
Those are the only ones that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
No. My question is no. My answer is, in short, no. Obviously, I can dig more into it, but what do you guys think?
I think it's more likely that CBCS ceases to exist than CBCS takes market share from CBC.
Well, here's some inside baseball. I had dinner recently with somebody who very, very close to the CBCS.
Yeah.
And,
No, I was just saying.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I was just smiling and nodding along.
And I overheard this individual telling a story where he said he picked up the phone and called them and said, "Listen, guys," and quote, "you're fucking up," end quote.
Yeah.
And when the person that makes this call made that call, it tells you a lot, because it's not just a random person off the street. Like, CGC has had a bad summer. CBCS has not as spectacularly, or at least as in public, had maybe a worse summer. Like,
yeah, I mean, I even
bad
did,
decision
I
after bad
comic
decision.
book stuff daily. I even did a video about them losing all those books.
Yeah,
that's the worst possible thing.
It's pretty bad
in the world.
The other problem is just that like it's going to be hard for them. Where CBCS can gain some ground is maybe with modern comic books, which it's going to be hard for them to do that because CGC just has the machine down of like being able to, like, on New Comic Book Day, like whatever, slab out all the whatever pre-releases and all that stuff. But that's where CBCS is probably going to gain ground as opposed to the vintage space, because look, if you have a Detective Comics 27 or an Action Comics 1 and you're going to slab it and your goal is to sell it, like, it's too much money to not put it in a CGC case. It just is. And outside of like some buyer with massive influence and some seller with massive influence selling CBCS, like if I don't know, if Robert Downey Jr. wanted to buy the highest grade Tales of Suspense 39, and it was being sold by whoever owns it, Jeff Bezos, who decided to slab it in a CBCS book, and Robert Downey Jr. took pictures with it holding the CBCS book, then maybe brand wise, you could start to give CBCS credit. But outside of that circumstance, I just don't see like how they could ever take over the vintage market.
Here's the other thing too. Like, there's someone in chat mentioned like the whole, the acetate gate with the 9910 stuff. I really wonder how many people outside of the micro content creator YouTube watcher bubble even know that even happened.
Right.
Like, does the average, I buy a couple CGC books a year, maybe I buy one a month, do they even know that went down if they're not like actively follow? If you don't consume YouTube comic book content, do you even know that happened?
Yeah.
It's a good question. It's a really good question. Probably not.
Do you even care?
I will say that, there's a large...
When I say, do you even care? I'm going back to that. Like, I am a semi-casual in the market. I am not consuming 3 hours a week of YouTube content revolving around comic books.
Yeah. It would take a lot of influential dealers and sellers to have to change ship. Like, I don't know if you guys know Red Hood Comics. He's a pretty big dealer, and he very much does not like CGC. At least outspokenly doesn't like CGC. Now, I don't know if he doesn't send his books to CGC or whatever, but like, he had one of those posts that was like, I'm only going to go to CBCS from now on. And it's like, I guess if you get a bunch of dealers who are, actually making it so that people are sort of bottlenecked into buying CBCS, maybe, but like, that seems like a lot of, a lot of books.
Saying most collectors watch YouTube. I actually disagree with that. I don't think most people in the collectible spaces actually consume collectible content.
Comic books, especially.
Well, and cards are even smaller too. If you look at, like, if you just want to take YouTube as an example, if you look at the largest comic book and card channels and compare them to literally every other niche, we are tiny.
Yeah,
like,
the toy space
what's
is
the
huge.
biggest comic book content creator? Is it Comic Tom? Does he have the most subscribers?
I would say Comic Tom for sure.
And
I mean, if you count Jim, who I feel
Jim
like
with the statues,
transcends a little bit,
but just strictly comics. Comic Tom, right? At what?
Well,
What's he at?
60
50 something. No.
Okay, 50,000 subscribers on YouTube is nothing.
It's nothing. Totally.
It's a ton to us. It's nothing.
Paul, you know why most collectors don't watch YouTube? Let me just say from the horse's mouth. Not that my channel is big by any stretch, but literally all of my LCSs I go into every single Wednesday, and I have never been recognized at any of my local LCSs. Never. And even the shop owner, I would think that the people who work there, and the shop owner who like have to have their fingers on the pulse of all their books and blah, 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 they might dabble a little bit in some YouTube content. No, they've never, they have no idea who I am. So if that is a data point too.
But even you though, you're what, like 14, we're around the same size, aren't we? We're both like in the low, what are you? I don't even remember what you're at. What's your
14 something.
Yeah, we're
closing in on 15.
We're basically the same. Like, in the grand scheme of things, we're actually pretty good size for our niche.
Yeah, in the niche,
small, and you're right. In the grand YouTube side of things, it's like nothing. But in the comic book space, you're probably a well above average channel size.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You've got to be top 25%,
and then it drops down to like probably a bunch of people between 10 and 20,000, and then like a ton of people below like 5,000. At least in the sports card side of things, that's generally you have your couple 100K people, a few like around 50 to 60, and then a ton in that 10 to 20K range, and then a metric ton in that like 5,000 and under range.
Right. Yeah.
But it's really not that, from a YouTube space, it's really not that big of a scene, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It seems like it is, but it's not.
Just means that there's still a lot of opportunity for growth.
Right.
That's right. Definitely. We need to do some evangelizing.
But it's also, I think it's an advantage though. Like I've had presidents of grading companies on my channel. That would have never happened
Yeah.
For a channel my size in another space, you're not getting access to people like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Well, I think with that, speaking of channels, thank you guys all for watching. We probably should wrap it up. If you guys have not subscribed to Como Comic Books and Neo Cards and Comics, I highly encourage you guys to do so. Their links are in the description. Definitely go check them out. Definitely give them subs. I mean, I'm sure you have subscribed to Drew by this point. Maybe you guys haven't seen Neo because he's more in the sports cards, but you should be watching Neo for sure. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining tonight. Maybe I'll pass the mic. Drew, you got anything going on? You got the video you got to do? You anything to look out for? Sales going on? Tell the people.
Yeah, I got a video. Hopefully it'll be out Saturday, maybe slightly delayed since, we've been hanging out tonight, but we'll see how much caffeine I can consume this evening and power through it. I'm going to be at the Spectre Club show. It's a 30-year-old comic show, or a comic show in St. Louis. Has been going on for over 30 years. At the end of the month, I think it's October 30th. I'll be set up there, have some stuff. So if you're in the St. Louis area, come out and see me. But other than that, new videos mostly on Saturdays. You never know where I might pop up in between. And thanks for having me again, Swag. I think I'm about up to like a green jacket or something at this point, aren't I?
Yeah. You're at the appearance level where it's no longer a key issue anymore.
Ouch.
We don't even notate it anymore.
Yeah, it's not even. Yeah, it's not even in the day.
Yeah, people just log on and it's like, oh, it's this damn guy again.
Rob, well, thanks again for hopping on. Maybe you can share with the people what you got going on.
Normal, almost daily videos, mostly sports card content. I have been, I've been trying to. I have a New York City Comic Con pickup video. There's not really a lot of comic books in it. That'll be coming out sometime soon. But for this side of the audience, for the most part, the last month or so on Mondays, I've been trying to focus that Mondays down to a kind of like a very high level look at non-sports cards. I've been throwing in comic books into that video, some Magic the Gathering stuff, just non-sports. If you don't want sports card stuff at all, the Monday video is probably for you. And then I mix in comic books randomly throughout other stuff, but it is primarily sports cards. Probably 90% of the channel is focused around that and grading and whatnot.
Well, very, very cool. You can still get some good information out of it. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for watching. See you all in the next stream. Peace.